We're back, baby. Horns up, talking Texas podcast. Fisher Desopoulos, the Quan, Cosby, Eric Metcalf is overseas in Japan enjoying the track and field event. And as he told me last week, a lot of sushi. So we'll get Metcalf back next week. All the boys rejoining next week. Very interesting game, fellas. Not what we wanted to see out of UTEP. 27-10, 7 penalties. Arch not looking like Arch once more. In fact, kind of regressing. But I want to start from the top down because it's not just Arch. Because as I mentioned, 7 penalties. DJ Campbell, who's supposed to be our most veteran starter in the offensive line, another 2 penalties out of him. Not really still getting enough pressure on the quarterback on the defensive side of the football. And then obviously Arch Manning just doesn't seem settled. And it doesn't even seem like we can really evaluate him wholly and honestly, quite frankly, in my opinion, because he doesn't even feel like he feels comfortable at the quarterback position to actually play it to his fullest ability. So, Kia, we'll start with you, then you toss. Like, what is the message this week if you're Coach Sark? We are one game away of getting into SEC play. We now see that Vanderbilt, which we beat last year, thought would be an easier home win. They're no slouch, taking care of business handily on the road against South Carolina. And it's a really big wake-up call that from here on out after Sam Houston, there's not going to be any easy games on the schedule. So what's your message if you're Coach Sark to this team as a whole?
Man, you know what? I rewatched the game, and clearly Arch has talked about it. Sark's talked about it. Offensively, it just wasn't even close to what the expectations were. But I learned something watching the game. That's why I like to go back. 8 out of our 11 starters are sophomores or freshmen. And the reason is not an excuse. That's just a fact. And when you think about, even the Campbells and all that and the hype and the expectation, they're trying too hard. They're overthinking. I just think, and then when your leader, when your quarterback is out of rhythm and having a bad day, oh, that's going to trickle down fast. We've talked plenty on this, podcast about the energy and the uplift you see when Arch is in there, right? The sideline, the team. Well, guess what? We also talked about winning is, contagious and so is losing. Not that they lost, but it's more of just the different trends and the momentum that you can ride on. So, man, it's funny. I don't want to necessarily say it was disappointing, but certainly it was eye-opening, just proof that this is a work in progress. We got another game this week that we better get better. Florida the week after, well, a couple of weeks. So in reality, yes, we go into conference play after this weekend, but we have a couple of weeks to get better. And I think that's the optimistic piece of it. We've seen Arch. We saw him in Mississippi last year. We saw him play a couple of games. He has the tools, and it's mental. He admitted this week it's mental. So again, we have a couple of weeks to get his mental right. And last but not least, defense. We're not getting to the quarterback. In my opinion, they're throwing the ball sooner than they need, which is making our DBs even more aggressive. And that's why we got another 2 interceptions last week. So that's more of a complementary piece of what our edge guys can do to an offense. And so we're not there yet. We're not getting home, but we're, in my opinion, one of the top teams in the country already at getting turnovers. So the defense is still at an elite championship level. If the offense picks it up, all of our expectations we started with, I like them.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great point on the defense because oftentimes, we'll look at what a lot of people deem as our most talented player in Colin Simmons on the entire roster. And we've been saying, hey, we want to see them get home. We want to see them disrupt the quarterback more and more. But to point out very aptly, Quan, that every other team that's playing us, and this is the same with Ohio State that we saw in week 1, they want to get the ball out as quickly as possible. And our guys have to be ready to make plays. We did have 2 picks. I would say one of those really good play by us. The other one, really bad play by Malachi Nelson, who had just as shaky of a showing as Arch Manning. People are talking about Jackson Arnold, who was also in that class, who's playing not that well. Even Dante Moore out of Oregon is playing fine, right? So it's like this entire class is getting a lot of critique that from the top of who the quarterback prospects were. I think it's encouraging to hear Arch talk to hear him address the media in the way that he does. I don't think anybody's surprised that he's relatively well media trained given who his family is and what his last name is. But I think he's incredibly authentic, and I believe him when he admits the fault of it being a mental error on him. And that's where, the seeing ghost is coming from. And that's why the throws were very inaccurate. It's his worst game, in my opinion, at least from a passing standpoint, from a mechanic standpoint, from being in the flow of the offense. And I was talking to Quan before you hopped on, Josh. Me and a buddy of mine who, we grew up playing basketball.
Boy, I was about to ask you.
Yeah, we basically likened it to like you have a shooting session, and I mean, I guess more aptly, it's a game, right? You show up for a game, and the first shot that you shoot, you're 4 feet long, and you're a good shooter. And the entire game you're course correcting and you just can't find the rhythm. And that's basically what it was. And I think to Sark's credit and to Arch's credit, that's why in the second half, we decided that we weren't going to throw the ball as much and we were going to rely on Arch's other tools, which is his legs, which as poor as he's been playing to start this season, he has been effective utilizing his legs. And I think he'll continuously get more confident in doing that and understanding that he's a load when he tucks the ball and runs. Like, he's athletic to get by linebackers. He's athletic enough to get the edge, and he's strong enough to, shake a DB, stiff arm him, whatever he needs to do, bully his way through. So we have other options, which is the great thing. Quan and I talked last week about we wanted to see either Arch or Baxter step up, have a great game, and be the leader going forward, because with all the sophomores that Quan pointed out, all the youth, we need that leadership on the field on the offensive side. We feel like we have it defensively. Baxter goes down the first play with a hamstring injury. Wisner's not out there, and then Arch has basically a day from hell. So we didn't get anything close to what we wanted, and this is going to be another one of those games where we have an opportunity for someone to kind of take the reins as a leader, which we need.
If I may say, before I kick it back to you guys, just on that point, you guys brought up a lot of good points. There's two things that you're both saying that are resonating with me. And that's bringing up the other quarterbacks, because I'm not like, making excuses for Arch. He is in this group, but let's not act like any quarterback or any of at least the expected quarterbacks in college football are lighting it up. What's Caleb Klubnik? What's
Klubnik's been there for 6 years.
Like, with no one, like Nussmeier's not like lighting it up. The only couple people that are really, I'm talking about, like, look like real guys that are lighting it up. Like, Mateer looks really dangerous, I gotta say, on OU. He looks, in Castellanos and Florida State look dangerous, and they're not even lighting it up to a.
I was about to say Castellanos looks really good. Mateer went 3 quarters and scored 7 points too against Michigan. So it just to your point, yeah.
No one's like lighting it up that much. And I really, again, hearing y'all talk about the way the offense is, I'm going on a stance, and I think going forward for me, the most pivotal player on offense just to get things going is Trey Wisner. He just has an experience running the ball. There is no pressure on him, quite frankly. There's all the, like, think about all the other guys. Like, Baxter has got all the pressure in the world to be the next great Texas running back. Arch has all the pressure in the world and some. Wingo, like, there is so much pressure on every single player on the offense, except for Trey Wisner, really. He always is the kind of guy that kind of just comes in, does his thing, runs extremely hard, plays extremely physical, and not having him in these games, I think, is a big factor for me. And it's something that's very evident.
He carried us to a major conference win last year by himself. I mean, obviously Quinn quarterbacked a fine game, but I think Wisner had 30 plus carries in that game against Texas A&M. Like, he imposed his will on 11 other guys on an entire team, so I completely agree with you. He has the experience and the assuredness in himself and his ability that none of the other guys could have, because they haven't been in that same situation.
And our running offense, especially, I mean, even without Wisner, has been fine. But with Wisner that week, against Ohio State, he was having, I think he had like 7 yards a carry, and then Baxter was like 5. So I think Wisner can have like that Jonathan Brooks level, impact on our offense. And then like we talked about even to start, I thought it was going to be 60-40 anyway, from a standpoint of the balance of how our offense is going to operate. 60% run with Wisner and Baxter, 40% Arch, lay it out there, baby, to Wingo and all the above. But if it needs to be 65, 35, 70, 30, I don't care. Your defense is elite. They're not going to score that much. Just go over there, take care of the ball, get 24 points, and you have a pretty freaking good chance to win even the games. As hard as they're going to be, it is also going to be that hard to score in our defense. So I'm right there with you from a standpoint of him being maybe the biggest key to this thing being, I guess the irony of it is ranked number 7, you take care of business here. You go into conference play 3-1 and you lost to the number 1 team in the nation. 4 years ago, Texas fan base is throwing parties and they're all this, but the problem with the expectations of what we dealt with. And on the same national deal I was listening to, it was so funny because of the whole quarterback conversation. There's a lot of quarterbacks not playing good. And every time they hear about it, the only one we're hearing about is Arch Manning.
Well,
it's all of
Haas walked into breakfast the other day.
Hold on.
Well, you walked into breakfast. I'm on the point. You walked into breakfast yesterday and I was mid conversation with somebody else, and all he heard was me say Lenoris Sellers. He patted me on the back and he goes, "Yeah, 2027, time to give that one up, dude." Because he was my Heisman pick, and I thought he'd be the first pick. I'm like,
well, he also got hurt, which you didn't mention in the game against Vanderbilt, and he got hurt early. But it doesn't take away from how well Diego Pavia played in that game, who's been excellent to start the season.
He might get a date with Tate McRae because of the game.
I don't challenge what the national media is talking about. I will also say, Arch, yes, of course, is getting the most criticized. Cade Klubnik this is directly impacting his draft stock. So this is
dude,
it's big,
absolutely.
It's big for him. I don't want to say that it's not been big for him. That team's obviously, they're not ranked now. This is the first time they've been 1-2 through the first 3 games since 2014. They're in a world of hurt, obviously. I do think, as much as I've watched those other quarterbacks, I watched Garrett Nussmeier in his entire game against Florida. He's operating, you can tell me his stats aren't good, but he's operating at a completely different level than Arch is right now. John Mateer is operating at a completely different level than Arch is, right? From a knowing what they're doing, playing within the offense, knowing when to go, when to slow, when to get the ball out, how to escape pressure, how to feel the pressure, how to feel the flow of the game. It's just a different feel for those guys. But look, Klubnik has the experience, the continuity. He has no excuses, and it's looked not quite as bad as Arch, but close to it. So I hear your point, but I also say the stats to me don't tell everything. I watch a lot of college football. We all do. You want to talk about DJ Lagway sucking? Yeah, we can do that because he's been really bad. But
I'm just saying no one's lighting it up. To me, Cam Ward last year would be the bona fide best player in college football, quarterback wise. Shedeur Sanders, if he stayed, would be the best quarterback in college football. Forget the name on the back. He'd be the best quarterback.
Quinn Ewers would be looking really good. I'm sorry. Listen, I know
Garrett Nussmeier, he's better.
No, he's good. Garrett Nussmeier is good.
Like about him, but the dude just every game threw for 2 or 3 touchdowns and 300 yards. We'll take that right now. Look, those stats would be in the top 5 in college football this year.
Yeah, Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers, I think in a lot of ways are very similar players, right? And Carson Beck is playing damn near better than anybody in college football at the position right now. So I totally agree. I also think, to your point, Josh, looking ahead, what's more important to Texas is that we play Lagway and that Florida team, but again, it's in Gainesville. So it's they played LSU close. It was still a close game. Their defense was still really good. And he threw 5 interceptions. Granted, again, 2 of those were Malachi Nelson style ones, but 3 of them, that defense is really taking a step up. So we're talking about the teams at the top. The common denominator, which is what is shared in our team, is those defenses for the best teams are why those teams are the top teams. And a lot of it has to do with the talent and the defensive coordinators that are coaching those guys, putting them in the right positions to be successful. But we play Diego Pavia. We play Blake Shapen, Starksville, Mississippi. He's been playing well. All of these guys that we didn't think we were going to have to pay attention to.
Was that Reed? Was it
Marcel Reed had a game-winning touchdown drive, obviously, and what he can do with his legs. We talk about who's playing better between Arch Manning and Marcel Reed right now. It's not even close. And then Green for Arkansas, and even Stockton's been fine for Georgia. Like these,
I mean, that's the least of our concerns is him. That they are a nightmare.
They just put up 40 plus
Oh
points.
yeah, they're a nightmare.
I'm just saying, like, unfortunately, we thought we had this really easy schedule, and a lot of the quarterbacks that we will have to face are actually some of the ones that are playing better than the guys that we listed who are playing poorly, besides Lagway.
I guess so. I'm a little confused by that because in conference, I never thought we had an easy schedule. I mean, you think about the month of October
comparatively to South Carolina and Florida, our schedule
and Oklahoma and all of them. Yeah, no, so I get that piece of it. But yeah, I mean, when we get through this weekend, we're on the road for 4 straight weeks. I guess Dallas, you can semi-consider it a home game with a home team, but it's not. You know, we're on the road. That thing's going to be 50-50 split down the middle, which we love. But, I mean, October can get real. October can get very, very real. And that's the wild piece of it. Now, I will say this, Tasso, because you're saying, Florida still played LSU close with 5 picks. Well, second half, Archer's better in Ohio State, and we played, Ohio State close, and he had an interception.
Well, I'm not sure I know how good Ohio State is right now, to be honest. Like, I know they're really good, but it's a who have you
defense. You talked about that. A bunch of really good defenses in college ball, apparently, and sus offenses.
Yeah, I mean, which is like early in the season. I guess like sometimes that's what you would expect. What I hear I completely agree with like our approach with that. We should rely on our running game. We should hopefully the offensive line will progressively get better and more disciplined throughout the season, identifying matchups to create gaps for our running backs to take advantage, to alleviate the pressure on Arch. And so if you compare our team to a team that I guess in structure is more of the type of contender it feels like will have to be until Arch figures things out, it's the Michigan team, right? That won with JJ McCarthy. But the one thing I'll say about JJ McCarthy is when he did need to throw, he converted at an incredibly high rate. And part of me is like, okay, if we're only letting Arch throw 23 times, like he's got to be he can't make mistakes. And so this is one of the only games left that he has to feel his way through those mistakes in the air before things start to get even more pressurized when we're into conference play, because those defenses then come to play. And then again, the quarterbacks on the opposite side are not Malachi Nelson, are not the guy that we saw last week against San Jose State. And, no offense, are not the guy that we're going to see this upcoming Saturday. So
let me ask you guys this. And Q, we'll start with you, then to you, T. At this rate, and I feel like we've been talking about this for a long time, but at this rate, do you guys think this is the last year we'll see Sark call the offensive plays at this rate?
What's interesting about that is that's a big debate, right? But every time I rewatch the game, I'm like, he's open. And so it's weird because, and then I also can see the adjustments with Arch struggles. Let's throw, when you think about how he started the game, let's throw a swing out of the backfield, boom, you get, 16, 17 yards and all that different stuff like that. If you're asking me, does his play calls affect Arch struggles? I'm going to say absolutely not, because he's actually called some really good games. And at one point I was starting to wonder, no, it's not. However, because I love the university, I've never thought about this, and I did the other day, and I go, what if Sark gets the flu? Who is our play caller? And I was like, just logistically, I'm going, if we're playing Georgia that week, he gets COVID or the flu, and I don't mean to wish that or anything, but it's the reality of where we are. And if he gets sick, they have a new baby. If they go to daycare and they get sick, it happens. I've been there. Who's going to play this is big money. It's gambling. It's, playoff. It's so many factors. So I don't know. But in my opinion, if he split times like an Andy Reid who always has a play caller. He always has an offensive coordinator. I guess that's the better way because Andy Reid still calls a good portion of their offensive plays. But he's
Yeah.
had Eric Enemy. He keeps in my. There's a time where Andy Reid in Philadelphia didn't have an offensive coordinator. They were good. When he got an offensive coordinator, they went to the Super Bowl. He goes to Kansas City. He keeps an offensive coordinator. They win 3. So I don't know that it'll be because Sark is not getting it done because I think he's a phenomenal play caller and all of that good stuff. However, in the breadth of what's best for the University of Texas and losing not just your head coach, but you're also your play caller, I wouldn't mind if we had that person on the sideline to help, to assist. We got to, there's a coaches show tonight. That offensive guy who helps call plays, while Sark is doing the head coaching show, he could still be drawing up plays, watching film, and figuring out ways to be, productive. And so it's more of a logistical thing for me that I hope it potentially get considered versus the actual play calls because I think he's calling a hell of a game and it's more of an execution. Y'all know how big I am on players make it happen. As simple as that. But there's a lot of open guys and all of that. So it's not necessarily his play calls, but I still would be very okay with having that, making that a shared situation because the data shows that it typically works better.
I think this third game made it very apparent that to look at what we've done this year offensively and point the finger at Sark is not something you can do. However, so I agree with Quan there. Counterpoint, we still have that 2 for 23 looming situation.
That's a good point. And red zone and third quarter.
Which to me, why I point the finger a little bit at Sark there is 2023, 2024, you have the same quarterback from both of those years. It didn't change each year, right? It's not like for the last 3 years, he's had 3 different quarterbacks. Because then I could look at his play calling and be like, and say that these quarterbacks aren't doing enough job meeting him where he's at with the playbook and where they need to be in operating the offense. But he had Quinn in 2023, he had Quinn in 2024. So to me, there is some level of disconnect there. I completely agree that this year, like, we can't point the finger at Sark. If Arch can't throw a 5-yard out, like, the game becomes so much more difficult for what Sark wants to do and so much more limited. And I think anybody who's watched football understands that, knowing where Arch was coming from, especially in this third game, right? And that's why he ran the football so much, and even with Arch in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. But like, you look at Ryan Day, offensive-minded head coach. He brings in Chip Kelly. They win a national championship. You look at Mike Norvell, offensive-minded head coach. They bring in Gus Malzahn. They look considerably better than they did last year, and they look even better than they did 2 years ago when they were undefeated, which a lot of that had to do with their defense. Yes, Jordan Travis was a really, really good quarterback, but their defense was incredible. So I think it's just at this point, the proof is in the pudding that another well-versed offensive mind in a locker room only helps and only alleviates some of that pressure from the head coach. You said, he's got this speaking event tonight, Quan. It makes me think about last year game day where he and Kirby are showing up on ESPN game day before the game at DKR against Georgia, where first quarter starts and it felt like we weren't ready. And I'm not saying it's because Sark had to step out that morning and go do something else and do media, but like, those opportunities come when you're a blue blood, when you're Texas, when you're in the limelight, and they're not going anywhere. And if we remain with the same expectation that we've had last year, this year, and hopefully for the future with this program, like, it's not going to get any easier. And so
Kirby's got Glenn Schumann.
Even the games that you're exactly right. Yeah. And we just talked about it. Even the games we thought that, I'm like, okay, Vandy played us well last year, but no, Vandy is real. Like Vandy's, dude, South Carolina.
Vandy played us. We probably should have lost that game.
No, we made plays to win it.
We could have. We could have lost that game very easily. 100%. Yes.
Oh, it got real at the end. My blood pressure was through the roof. I think we did the podcast after that, and I said apparently UT football don't give a bleep about my blood pressure.
No.
I mean, when I
Well,
started,
I
when I feel
think you've
blood
been
pressure
saying
pills,
that
I
for a
feel it.
long time.
Yeah, that was
dude.
every
I
show
don't
2
think
years ago. I think.
I don't think that was a
So
one-time
that
comment.
was, I think that game, I lost sleep on that game. So
Yeah.
no, you're right. We could have. So no, that's a very good point, Toss. They go do that. We love it. We love to see our coach. He represents us so well. Kirby's doing that, but his offensive coordinator is still working. You know what I mean? And so it's just different perspectives that the proof is in the pudding. So I do think it should be considered. It takes away from Andy Reid. Still, everybody literally one of the best offensive minds ever, and you
Mhm.
still get that
Well,
trophy, that perspective,
right.
that
Super Bowls
respect.
and national championships don't make you less than. So
No,
it
heck no,
it's
they really don't. It truly only catapults where it all is. So little things like that, and going back to it, just the logistics in general. I mean, I don't think anyone's thought about it, and hell, I don't ever quote unquote get sick. Oh, my body was worn out this week, and I needed a couple of days. So
Mhm.
it's human nature that happens. And so, nah, man, that's a good question, Josh. But I think it's collectively should be considered, but not because of the crazy fan, oh, our offense sucks perspective. But some of the proof that is in the pudding is the struggle bus starting the game. We're 2 for 23 in the last 32. The red zone yips. I mean that proof. That's the difference in getting to two national championships. If we want
It's
to be
just
honest.
another guy in the mix. Like even like Brian Kelly, who was a DC, like a defensive minded guy for LSU, they brought in Blake Baker, and it makes a difference. And like that stuff kind of matters. Like it's not
I,
I'm about to
about
throw out
you.
the name for y'all though. Is it time to bring Applewhite back?
Bring somebody,
The
get
Texas
somebody in the
folks
mix.
would literally, yes.
I mean, get somebody in the mix. It couldn't hurt.
I
To
actually, and don't you think that on like what a lot of the assignment of the head coach is outside of the initial script, right? For Sark, because he's also the offensive play caller as well. He does so well as far as like keeping keeping our team under composure, knowing the clock, knowing what to do, when to do it at the end of halves, like coming back in the second half and being a team that constantly makes adjustments, not just defensively with PK, but consistently. I think we've seen, because we've started so slow for the last 2 years, like we've really ramped things up in the second half. And that's what we've continuously been talking about, not only this year, but last year. Like, how do we get where we end up at the end of games, at the beginning of games? And to me, the direct point is, well, if we bring in an OC to take care of the first half of the offense in particular, then the rest of the things will just they'll fall into place, because I think Sark does such a good job elsewhere. Like
Yeah.
he's a great head coach. He really is. Like I don't have questions that I have for some other OCs that become head coaches where I'm like, they just don't feel like they fit in,
Mhm.
like they can't they don't fit the
Some
jacket,
guys are
right? Like
coordinators.
they don't fill it out. He fills
Oh,
out
Tom
the
Herman.
jacket.
Tom Herman was a great OC. Tom Herman was a terrible head coach. You just got to call a spade a spade. He'll probably, send me a message and tell me he hate me after me saying that. But it's just the truth. But I mean, and that's a prime example. Or what about this? Here's a different thought. And I don't care what people think about Greg Davis, but after literally 9 out of 10 series, good or bad, Colt was on the phone, or even me or Shipley were on the phone talking to Coach Davis about what we saw, about how it went. That's not even possible. And maybe Milwaukee's trying to do it. I don't know. But Sark has to keep being the head coach. And
Mm.
that's valuable time, especially with a young quarterback that you can dissect, that you can develop, and that you can do
That's
your
such a
thing.
that's such a good, like, as a fan, to see your quarterback have a bad series and then just sit and like sulk
Bro,
basically on the
just sit in
sideline.
it. Like,
It's
you know
like it's
what?
kind of like,
That's
oh,
that's how
and then
you
I'm just
get
like,
psychologically
oh,
losing.
he's losing it.
Yeah.
Arch is losing it. But if I
That's
see him
another
like
phone thing
on
is a
the
great
iPad,
point.
if I see him on the iPad, I see Brady spiking the iPad. I'm like, oh, he's coming back next drive and he's got some real juice. I know
Yeah.
he's figured it out. Like he's in the lab and he's gonna figure this thing out. Like it's just it's, I mean, not that that really matters for what we're watching, but like from an experience standpoint, you want
No,
to
it
see,
1,000% matters. It's a
yeah,
development and it's dissecting and instead of you making a halftime adjustment, you're making a series adjustment.
right.
That's truly what you're doing, and you're like, "Hey, man, go back to the Ohio State game, bro. We thought they were blitzing. No, they're jumping in the zone. Hey, you remember that play? What do we think about this? How about this concept? That's literally what we were talking about. You go back to my last game in Ohio State when they sent a zero blitz. We actually watched film and we knew that they liked doing it." Kind of in pressure moments, into the game, time running out. They sent that blitz right before halftime.
Right.
They landed it. It worked. Colt went to Brandon Collins, wrong side. We talked about it. We're like, hey, if they do that again, we're going to kill them. So that's little things about game time, real time perspectives that, at least from Sark is the best offensive kind of perspective in mind there right now. But if he had a voice in a true offensive coordinator,
Moment to
that
moment.
that moment to moment that
Yeah.
could share that perspective, I just do think there's some value in that.
Because you see him, it's a great point. You see him on the sideline, and maybe now I'm just like misremembering things because y'all said it. I always see him just like on the bench if it doesn't go well, and there's no one because Sark can't go and not coddle's the right word, but he can't go break it down with him because he has to still be the head coach.
Well, he
There's
also,
not enough people to like get in there and adjust it.
how about the level of focus too, right? Like Caleb Downs cheats up to the line. His hips go outside when he ends up covering. His hips go inside when he's, spying the QB
Yeah.
or he's blitzing or something like that. Sark can't pay attention to that. There's too many things going on. It's like, but if the OC identifies that and he's like, oh, let's run a slant with the inside slot receiver so that it opens up Wingo on the outside for a go or whatever. Like there's too many things going on. And then at that point, I guess Quan, the offensive play calling probably has a lot more to do with like what you saw in tendencies in tape as opposed to what you're seeing live there in the reactions that the defense is giving you, right? Like they're probably relying more on film study.
That's exactly right. And,
Yeah.
and that's especially per what we have now. But what we all understand, very similar to Texas OU, our tendencies, what we did, we scored 45 on a NFL led great defense because they then put me and Ship in the slot. They put us at the Y. They put it at a Z. We around. They couldn't adjust. Literally, Venables, who's the head coach now, goes, we weren't even a fraction prepared for that. And so that's the thing you're going to have with the time, with these players. They're really good players and they can prepare differently. They can adjust quick. You're getting, which we do very well too, players that can play 5 different positions. And so it's just really hard to make these real time adjustments in the logistical setup that we are in now. And especially, and the data, the proof, the eyeball test, you name it, offensively, we're not getting it done. And so naturally, we're going to try to figure out why. And we're even pulling up some things that were pre-arch that we think that's affected by the current structure. It's just the truth. And so, yeah, man, it's like I said, great question. And we all hope it's considered.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gents, hopefully next week it's a bit more rainbows and pina coladas over on the Horns Up.
I feel like there will be.
I feel like there will be too. I had another question, but you know what? It's a bit pessimistic, so I'm going to save it for next week. Hoping we never use it. It's a play that I hope I never have to use in the playbook. We'll see you guys next week. Fisher, Tosopoulos, the Quan Cosby. Let's go get a win. Let's go cover. Let's go make it happen. Hook 'em.
Let's go 3-1, baby.